Greetings, fellow Watford fans. It's Omar here, and it's time for the YouOrns Friday Focus on Rotherham against Watford at New York Stadium tomorrow. That's right, tomorrow, Saturday in the Championship. Watford coming off their 2-1 victory on Vic 100 night, of course, just a few days ago. Fakun Bio's late winner for the Orns, giving them all 3 points. And Rotherham coming off a 3-0 defeat at Sunderland during the week. A game that Rotherham did not play particularly well in for the most part. They had a few chances, but most of all, Sunderland, who looked very good in that game, controlling the game and dominating, obviously, on the scoreboard. So something will have to give over the weekend in this one between Rotherham and Watford. And last season, or at least the last season that Watford were in the Championship, they came to the New York Stadium and left the New York Stadium with 4 goals to their name. Watford winning 4-1 back in 2021 when they were last in the Championship. Rotherham, of course, will be hoping that that does not happen to them again. Rotherham, coming off of the game against Sunderland, will be eager to put that result behind them and will be looking to be on the front foot. So Watford are going to be coming into this game, I think, under lots of pressure in the first 15 to 20 minutes of the game. So defending fundamentals will be exactly what we will hope for Watford on Saturday. That will be the key of this game, I think, for the entirety of this game. The defense for Watford, which of course has not been at its best by a long shot this season, will have to be at its best, I think, against a Rotherham side. They're going to be putting a lot of balls into the box and causing some panic in that defense. That is what Rotherham are going to be about on Saturday when they play in front of their home crowd. They're going to have a full head of steam coming off that game against Sunderland that they lost. Their first defeat of the season, by the way, in the Championship for them, as they got beat 3-0, as I mentioned. They are going to be coming with a full head of steam at the New York Stadium tomorrow. And so Watford are going to have to be on their toes. What Watford are going to have to do a lot better than they've done, especially in the Queen's Park Rangers game, and they did it a little bit better in the game against Middlesbrough, is to close down spaces where attackers are. You cannot leave attackers on the box waiting to run in for that loose ball. Watford have done that too often in some of the games this season. And if they're going to come away from Rotherham with any kind of point or points, they're going to have to be more fundamentally sound defensively. They're going to have to do a lot more blocking, kind of the way they did in the second half of the game against Middlesbrough. They're going to have to be able to close down spaces and not give Rotherham so much space. I don't think that Rob Edwards is going to allow for that. And I bet he has briefed his players. I'm sure he has briefed his players on being able to close down these spaces and areas on the pitch. What Watford would like to do, and I think what Watford should be doing, is making the situation for Rotherham as uncomfortable as they can when it's possible. It's difficult on defense for sure, but my goodness, there has to be a cohesiveness and a structure about your defending, and that involves closing down spaces, shutting down access to wide areas. In other words, when those balls are coming down the right or left side of those channels, because Rotherham like to use width, they like to use those channels, and they will be using their wing backs to cross those long balls into the box. What you want to do as a Watford defender is try to shut down as much of an entry point into that final third, or at least into that 18-yard box as possible. Make sure that you try to keep yourself tight on that wide player so that that ball can't come in as easily. And that is what Watford are going to have to do defensively, because I think this is going to be a game that's not going to have a whole lot of goals in it. I do think that defensively, Watford can set the tone. And if they do, and write out the opening 20 minutes or so of what the pressure is surely expected to be coming from a Rotherham side that just come off a defeat, I think Watford could start to work their way into the game. Now, as far as it goes up front, I think Watford are going to use pretty much the same lineup I suspect that they used in the game on Tuesday night. If Ken Sema is okay to go, and I think he may well be, expect Sema to be back in the lineup. It's probably going to be the bread and butter 3-5-2 that Rob Edwards enjoys very much. And I would love to see him switch both Sema and Camera. I really would. If he can switch Camera back to the left and put Sema on the right, because Sema can play on the right. I've seen it, and we know that he can. I think it would be a lot better in terms of that wing back situation. We know about the transfer market. We know about the window. We've already talked about that, of course. But look, the fact of the matter is, is that I think I would love to see Cameron back on the left side and switch on that five, switch Sema over to the right hand side. I think that would be a better bet. But of course, Rob has a very specific idea as the manager what he would like to do, and I think that Watford, I think going forward, can milk that partnership between João Pedro and Ismail Assar. They obviously have great chemistry together. They have been on the team together for a number of seasons now, and you saw glimpses of it, obviously, against Sheffield United this season when Sarr provided the assist for João Pedro in the second half of the only goal of that game. You also saw, of course, just a few days ago, earlier this week at the Vic, when Watford beat Middlesbrough, that important pass, great assist from João Pedro to find Sarr. So they have a chemistry and understanding between each other. You have to ride that wave right now, and you have to obviously, since both of them at this point, as far as I know, are healthy, you should be starting the two of them up top now, and then Bio can come off the bench perhaps later on. I would like to see Bio come in again around the 70th minute. He did come in the 73rd minute of the game against Middlesbrough. I'd like to see that again from Rob. If Rob can bring him in around the 70th minute or so, let's see what happens. I think that that's more than enough time to get Bio involved. Like what he's done so far, worked really hard for the team, and his hard work has paid off with the goal that he got to win the game the other night. And so Watford, I think, going forward, they're going to have to use, I think, a similar lineup that they've had. No Raymond I, of course, for now for the next few weeks. So I expect it's going to be João Pedro and Ismail Assar up top in that 3-5-2. I expect that pretty much everything else will stay as is. I think the only thing, and again, I just love to see the switch with Cameron going back to his left side on that wing back and that middle five, and have Sema switch over to the right. That's the only change I'd make there. Esprit is going to be in the bulk of that midfield doing an attacking role, so he'll go forward and drift back. And then, of course, you will see Chowdhury and Kayembe being the anchors. So that's really what you've got there in that midfield around that central three. And then they'll probably play again with Espria in a more advanced attacking midfield position. And then you'll have, as I said, the two wing backs who move up and down and shift back in Sema and Camera. And I expect that Rob's going to probably start them as he did the way that he did on Tuesday. But like I said, I'd like to see the switch over. I'd like to see Sema on the right, and I'd like to see Camera on the left. Now, as for the defense, I fully expect that there will be one change made there. And I think that change would be to bring Courtney House in to start on the left side of that three at the back. So I'd expect that you'd see Courtney House on the left side as the left-footed left centre back. I think you'll see Sierra to stay in that, I guess, roughly in that central position. And then I think you'll probably end up seeing Craig Cathcart in on that right-hand side, most likely. But you never know. You never know. You could see Cabaselli there as well. Who knows what Rob's going to do with that? But I expect you'll probably see Cathcart, although Cathcart came off the other night with a bit of an injury at his head. So I don't know. That could be Cabaselli's spot, or it could be Cathcart's. But one of those two I expect will start. Matty Pollock will be available. So I wonder if he will be named to the bench. I'd like to see Pollock come into this game if he is named to the squad for the bench, or maybe he'll even get a start. But I don't see that from Rob Edwards at the moment. We'll see how things go. I may well be wrong about that, but that's really what I expect the starting lineup to be. Pretty much the same 3-5-2 once again. João Pedro and Sarr, when they're scoring like they have, Sarr's got 2 goals now. João Pedro has 2 goals now. They're looking really good together, very lively and creative. They've put their heads down, ignored the transfer nonsense, and they have stuck to their task. When you've got that going on and you've got 2 goals apiece from the two of them, you've got to keep them as your two. It's that simple. Even though Bio's beginning to find himself, you've got to put those two out there. You have to keep going back to that, and you've got to ride the hot hand now. And I expect that Rob will do that this Saturday against Rotherham, who are going to be up for it. Rotherham are going to have a point to prove here. They're going to probably get a bit physical. They like their one-on-one battles, Rotherham, as Watford take that long trip up to South Yorkshire to take on the Millers at New York Stadium in the Steel Town area. Of course, Sheffield not far away from Rotherham either. So there we go. It's going to be a good physical tussle, I think, at times. Espria may be one of the key players in this one. I think that Espria may play a pretty big role in this game. I think that there's something with Espria here. I think he's due for some real impact play as far as this game is concerned. He was very, very good in the game against Preston, and really delivered those sensational deliveries to Raymond I, and he's done some good lively things. He had a free kick the other night, just went over the crossbar. So I think Espria is coming along, and I think he's about due now to make a big impact. And I think this game could come down to some quality and technical ability. And I think Espria might be the man to unlock it. João Pedro certainly someone who's got the intangibles as well. And so does Sarr when he's really on his game. So Watford, I think the big mission for Watford this weekend is to be very defensively sound because they're going to get a lot of aerial incoming. I think they're really going to. Rotherham are going to be putting balls into the box over and over and over again, a bit like Burnley does, love to put these long balls into the box. And they are going to be a handful to deal with, Rotherham. So Watford need to be careful defensively. It's the defensive soundness, the defensive fundamentals, and it's going to be a team defensive performance. It will have to be because I think that's the way to come out of Rotherham with some points. I think Watford here, if they are able to ride out the first 20 minutes or so and stick to their task and end up getting on the score sheet first, I think Watford can go on and win this game and keep themselves ahead of a Rotherham side that definitely has some danger men in it. I think that Watford will have to avoid conceding the first goal because I think Rotherham can get rather stubborn defensively after that. So I would say Watford here, the key in this game will be the first 20 minutes of it. If Watford can get themselves in front, get their noses in front, I think that they can go on and win the game. But if they end up conceding the first goal, as they have done now in the last two games in the league, in the championship, it could be a very difficult day. Rotherham, as I say, are going to want to come in with a full head of steam here, and I expect they will throw the kitchen sink at Watford. Watford are going to have to be patient. They're going to have to be switched on at all times in this game because I think Rotherham could really prove to be trouble for Watford if Watford do not take them seriously enough. And I think Watford will. It is, again, the defense that's going to be key to this game. And I expect, though, that Watford, if they patiently wait out and hold down the fort against Rotherham at the New York Stadium, I think Watford, with who they've got, how this 3-5-2 is slowly but surely beginning to round into shape, I think they will have an opportunity to score at least a couple of goals here. They've scored 2 goals in each of their last 2 games now. Watford, the defeat at home to Queen's Park Rangers last weekend, and then the midweek win against Middlesbrough. So I think now that Watford can kick on a bit more here and start to get goals. And I do think Espria will have a key part to play in this game. I think he might even get on the score sheet. We'll see. And that is what I think about the game between Rotherham and Watford. This has been the YouOrns Friday Focus.